For 10 years, I have been saying that I was going to write a book. And during those 10 years, there were a lot of ideas and outlines, did a ton of research. In some cases, I actually wrote out a chapter or maybe two. And after a decade, I've had an idea for 3 different books, put a lot of time into 2 of them so far, but not one of them is done. And what finally moved me forward wasn't the time and energy of writing a book. It was starting a podcast. This is because podcasting gave me a way to stop waiting for everything to be perfect and to simply just start sharing my voice. I want to welcome you to this course, and I'm super excited to share those 3 shifts that are going to move you from overthinking and into actually starting your podcast. So let's start with my own story. How did I get into podcasting? It wasn't from anything I expected. And it was 2 years ago. I had quit my job and I had started a business, and I was coaching women on narcissistic abuse recovery. I was attending a training on marketing, and the facilitator suggested to me that an amazing way for me to market my business would be to be a podcast guest. And I really honestly thought she was nuts. I had no idea how to do that. I had never done it. I didn't even know where to go. And in that moment of overwhelm, she gave me some just general direction. It's really simple. Just go to Facebook. There are some groups there that specialize in finding guests. And sure enough, there was. And so I submitted some applications and got my first interview. Super scared. I'd never done anything like that before. I talked to individuals about my own story of a narcissistic abuse recovery, but I certainly hadn't done it on a public forum while I was being recorded. But what I found is after the first couple of interviews, I loved it. And so I made the decision to start my own podcast. And I knew nothing. I started from the ground up. I figured everything out on my own. And what a journey it was. 1 step forward, 2 steps back, I'll tell you that. And what I did is I followed a format of somebody else's podcast that I actually really liked. And he would just turn on the mic and the camera on for 10 minutes. He would have a topic. And whatever came to his mind in those 10 minutes was the episode. And so that's how I started. It was audio only. And just in baby steps, it grew into something way bigger than I could have ever imagined. What I discovered is that it wasn't about being perfect. It was about showing up messy, that there was something really authentic about that. And it appealed to people. And I had a large audience right out of the gate. And I think it's because I said the things that people were thinking, but no one had ever actually voiced. I also think it's because I was just speaking like I was sitting in a coffee shop with a friend. And what was even more interesting is as my podcast continued, and I went from going to audio to video, having guests, the whole thing, it was even bigger than that. Because as I was sharing my story over and over again, as I was sharing different aspects of it, and I was actually hearing from listeners about how it had also impacted them in a positive way, it not only encouraged me to continue, something became really clear to me after a year. My healing journey had actually progressed. I was actually healing myself in real time in front of my listeners. And so I changed the focus of my podcast from healing from trauma to how do women break patterns with emotionally unavailable men? Not how do we heal from what they've done to us, but how do I move forward and create that healthy relationship? What this all means is that we just have to start. We don't get perfect and we don't get clear on what our message is in episode 1. We have to just start and let it flow and let it evolve. And I will say it's like anything else that you do. The first time is scary. It's clunky. It feels a little messy. But I can assure you through my own experiences, the more you do it, the easier it becomes, the more comfortable you get. And while, yes, I would still like to write those books that I have in the works, But what I've realized is that podcasting gets out the same message. It's easier, it's faster, and it doesn't have to be one big production. It's just little bites of it at a time. The key lesson that I want you to take away from this shift is that you don't need more clarity. You just need to give yourself permission to express yourself. And I'd like you to take a moment and stop the video. And I want you to finish this sentence and please write it down. I want to start a podcast because there's no right or wrong answer. Whatever comes to mind, write it down. No judgment. What this does is it gets you out of that, how do I start overwhelm? And it moves you into, maybe I really do have something to share. Shift number 2 is why starting feels bigger than the podcasting itself. The reality is most people, they aren't really afraid of actually having or doing a podcast. What they're afraid of is being visible and vulnerable. They're afraid of making a mistake and looking stupid. They're afraid that others are going to judge them, maybe make fun of them. They're afraid that what they have to say isn't important and they're just not good enough at expressing it. There's also a lot of common myths that are incorrect. They include, I have to have expensive equipment. I need a branding and a logo and a dedicated show title first. I need to have a large audience. I need to have a recording studio. I need to know everything about the topic that I'm going to talk about. And this may be the biggest one. I need to feel confident before I start. If you go back to my own story, I did not feel confident. I was scared to death, whether it was being a guest or even more scared when I started my own. And all those thoughts ran through my mind. What if no one listens? What if people make fun of me? What if they hate it? What if people get mad at me? I decided just to dive in. I decided to figure it out as I went. I gave myself permission, first of all, to share my voice and my story, regardless of how people reacted. I decided I was going to trust myself because there were other things that I learned to do by myself, so I could learn this too. Part of my healing was getting over the fear of being visible. I talked about an abusive ex-husband regularly and still do at times. I had to get over the fear that he would get angry and try to retaliate because I realized my power was in speaking my truth, regardless of who reacted and how. When we're talking about what it is that you want a podcast about, it doesn't have to be what I do. It could be anything. It could be something very light and fun. I am a firm believer that no matter what your topic is, there is someone out there that is interested in that too and wants to hear from you and wants to know your thoughts on it. As you're listening to this, ask yourself these questions. Have you been saying that you've wanted to write a book, launch a business, launch a podcast, have a YouTube channel? Have you been saying, I want to share my message, I just don't know how? Well, podcasting really is simply the easiest way to do that. Once again, I would like you to stop the video for a moment, and I want you to write down the answer to this question. What am I actually afraid will happen if I start? What this does for you, it just brings a little bit of awareness into what is really stopping you. And shift number 3 is really about the roadmap that I wish someone had given me 2 years ago when I started. Most people do not fail at podcasting because it's hard. They fail because they spend months or years researching the topic, overthinking what kind of equipment they need, or maybe they just keep changing ideas or topics. Sometimes life simply gets busy. And if we spend too much time spinning our wheels, then our momentum, it just disappears. Quite frankly, you do not need another year of overthinking this. You just need a roadmap, and that'll get you started. At this point, I don't want you to be concerned about what equipment you need, where you're going to record the podcast, because I started mine in my living room. And to this day, I still record from my home in a second bedroom. I don't want you to worry about how to set it up, all the technical stuff you have to know. I just simply want you to do this. Once again, stop the video, get your pen or pencil out, and think about these things. What is a topic that lights you up? What's something that you talk about or think about a lot that excites you? And who else do you think would be interested in hearing about it? And what is one step I can take today to move towards that? What this does for you is it takes you out of the rumination and puts you in decision. For 10 years, I contemplated, researched, went gung-ho for a day or two, and then did nothing. And my books, they never got written. But once I made the decision to start that podcast, I acted on it even with the fear, with the unknown, with the mistakes. And that's where the magic is, in the doing, not the thinking. So if you're anything like me, maybe you have been carrying around an idea for 10 years, whether it's a book or it's a business or it's something, a message that you want to get out to the world. What I realized after all those years of never writing those books is that I didn't need more planning. I just needed a place to start speaking. And my podcast became that place. If this course has helped you to realize that you do have a voice and you want to use it, the next step is not research. It's actually building and creating the very thing that you want to do. And that is exactly why I created Launch Your Podcast Without Losing Your Mind. Because the truth is that most people, they don't need more information. They just need a shortcut. When I started my podcast, I spent countless hours researching equipment, learning software, figuring out hosting platforms, how to create those systems, making mistakes, and trying to piece together everything by myself. And while I'm grateful for everything that I learned, I also know how much time, frustration, overwhelm, and second guessing I could have avoided if someone had simply given me a roadmap. And that's what launching your podcast without losing your mind is. It's the course that I wish someone had given me in the beginning. It's a shortcut through the confusion, and it's a roadmap through the overwhelm. And it's a guide that'll help you to avoid all of those mistakes that I made. Because you don't have to spend the next year or two trying to figure everything out by yourself. You can choose the level of support that fits you best. Maybe you just want a step-by-step course that gives you the freedom to move at your own pace. And then you do it yourself. Or maybe you want an additional level of support where you still want the course so you can do it yourself, but you also want those one-on-one meetings with me so I can answer those questions directly and walk you through the process. I know when I want an answer to a question, I don't want to be pushing a number to get a recorded response. I want to talk to a real person. And that's what these sessions are about. Or maybe you really don't want to have to deal with setting it up by yourself. You want someone who can do that for you. So you select the option where we have strategy sessions together, and I do all the technical setup for you. No matter which path you choose, you will not have to do this alone. I've already walked this road, and now I can shorten it for you. If you're ready to stop overthinking and start building your podcast, I invite you to click the link provided and select the option that is best for you. Your voice matters, and I would love to help you share it.